August 1941, Suez Canal Zone, Egypt. The sun is already burning the docks as British soldiers and exhausted port workers move like shadows across the heat-soaked shoreline. A convoy has just arrived from America. Crates come first. Ammunition, spare parts, engines wrapped in oilcloth. Then, slowly, the machines themselves are lowered onto Egyptian soil. Tanks, but not like anything the British Army is used to. Small, compact, almost unassuming, built with a completely different philosophy. Their armour is riveted in places, not fully welded. Their engines are borrowed from aircraft designs, air-cooled, loud, unusual. Their shape looks almost temporary. Each one weighs just under 15 tons. At first glance, they look like stopgaps, emergency tools sent to a struggling army that had run out of better options. And, in a way, that was true. But within weeks, they would earn a name no British tank had ever carried before. A name spoken with something close to affection. Honey. To understand why that name mattered, you have to understand the nightmare Britain was living in. By mid-1941, the war in North Africa had turned into a mechanical war of survival. After Dunkirk in 1940, Britain had lost nearly everything. Of 500 tanks sent to France, fewer than 15 made it back. Factories rushed to replace them, but speed replaced quality, and the result was brutal. Take the Crusader cruiser tank. On paper, it looked impressive, fast, well-armed, modern. In reality, it was breaking down before it even reached battle. Sand destroyed its cooling systems, oil leaked constantly. Electrical faults were common in desert heat so extreme that even training movements became dangerous. In one recorded march, an armoured unit saw nearly 80% of its Crusaders fail before reaching contact with the enemy. Meanwhile, something strange was happening beside them. The new American tanks, these Stuarts, were still moving. Same conditions, same desert, but only about 10 to 12% failure rates. The difference was impossible to ignore. The tank's origin was not British at all. It came from American factories in Pennsylvania, rapidly redesigned in 1940 after Europe collapsed into full-scale war. By early 1941, under the expanding lend-lease agreement, Britain began receiving shipments. The first batch? Nearly 600 tanks. And what arrived in Egypt would change everything. Each vehicle carried a Continental air-cooled radial engine, originally designed for aircraft, around 250 horsepower, connected to a 5-speed transmission that pushed the tank to over 38 miles per hour on roads, faster than anything German armoured units had in the desert. Even off-road, it could maintain speeds close to 20 miles per hour. It was crewed by 4 men, armed with a 37mm main gun and multiple machine guns. Not the most powerful weapon on the battlefield, but reliable, quick to aim, and easy to operate under pressure. Its biggest weakness was fuel range. Roughly 60 gallons gave it limited endurance in desert combat conditions. But there was one thing it never lacked: reliability. Then came November 1941. Operation Crusader. The British launched a massive offensive into Libya. Over 160 of these American tanks rolled forward as part of the 4th Armoured Brigade. And what followed shocked even Allied observers. On a 70-mile desert march, nearly every single tank arrived operational. One breakdown. That was it. At the same time, other British units lost dozens of Crusaders before even reaching the front. The contrast wasn't subtle anymore. It was visible on the battlefield. The first major clash came days later near Gazala. British armoured forces met the German Afrika Korps head-on. Chaos followed. Some units collapsed under fire. Others held barely together. Tanks burned in the desert sun. But the honeys kept moving. Fast strikes, quick withdrawals, hit-and-run attacks that confused German commanders used to slower, heavier armour. Even when losses came, and they did, they rarely came from mechanical failure. They came from combat. In the hardest phase of the campaign, near Tobruk, the fighting became relentless. Commanders described days where crews slept inside their tanks because there was no time to stop. One officer recorded more than 1,800 miles of continuous movement and combat rotation over just a few weeks. Entire brigades were rebuilt in motion, tanks replaced as fast as they were lost, and still the line held.